Hello, welcome back to my channel. The Ashes series 2023 has just concluded, and it was not just a series. It was an absolute roller coaster of a journey over 5 test matches across a grueling English summer. So, over this 6 video series, I'm going to review each of the tests. Well, it was time for the last and final test match of Ashes 2023. This was going to be the fifth and last game. We moved from the Old Trafford to the Oval in London, with the Australians leading the series 2-1. I've reviewed the first 4 games in my previous videos, so certainly check those out before watching this one. I'll leave the links in the description and they'll randomly pop up throughout the video, so certainly check them out. All right, let's get to the final game. Pat Cummins of Australia won the toss and elected to bowl first. England batted pretty well, scoring 283 runs. Being 2-1 down in the Ashes, with this one being the last game, the pressure was firmly on England. Youngster Harry Brook responded to that pressure brilliantly as he scored a fluent 85. Mitch Starc, who was having a great Ashes, was the pick of the bowlers for Australia as he claimed a 4-wicket haul. Then the Aussies batted and did so in a pretty similar fashion to England's first innings as they scored 295, just 12 runs ahead of England's first innings total. Talisman Steve Smith was the best batter for Australia as he scored 71. The bowling chart for England did not read any standout performances, but all the bowlers contributed, with all the frontline bowlers taking wickets, and Wokes being the best of them with 3. England's response was sensational as they scored a grand total of nearly 400 runs. Zach Crawley, who scored 189 in the previous game, contributed here with a quick-fire 73 as well. Joe Root batted pretty well as he scored 91, and even the ever-impressive and consistent Johnny Bairstow batted beautifully, collecting 78 runs. Mitchell Starc claimed another 4 for his second of the game, while even young spinner Todd Murphy, entrusted with the responsibility of filling the void left by injured veteran Nathan Lyon, claimed 4 wickets. However, both Starc and Murphy were really expensive, with both going for about 5 runs and over. So then comes the fun. The target for Australia to win the Ashes was 383 runs. Also, England veteran Stuart Broad, 37 years old, announced before the start of play on day 5 that this was going to be his last test match. So that added to the England's players' motivation. However, Australia started really well with the bat, with both openers, David Warner and Usman Khawaja, scoring 50s. Even number 4 batter Steve Smith scored a half century. They were 135 for 0 at the start of play on day 5. However, Chris Wokes bowled an absolutely sensational spell along with Moeen Ali, as they claimed 7 wickets amongst them, and they got those in barely any time, literally. So it was indeed an absolute captaincy masterstroke by Ben Stokes to take emotion out of the equation and not hand the ball to Stuart Broad in his final innings, but instead to Wokes and Moeen. The two of them tore through the Australian middle and lower order at a rapid pace, leaving Australia 294 for 8, with Carey and Murphy out there. Then Australia officially shut shop and were playing for the draw, as even a draw would have won them the Ashes. But then Captain Stokes handed the ball to none other than Stuart Broad. The crowd was going mad, constantly cheering every ball from him, as they knew that this was going to be his last spell in international cricket. Then it took him a few overs to do it, but eventually he got his first wicket of the innings when he nipped out Todd Murphy. Here's a little fun fact. In the first innings, when Marnus Labuschagne had gone on a blockathon and Broad was bowling, Broad did a pretty interesting thing. He swapped the bails with each other at the non-striker's end, hoping that his luck would change. And it did, with Marnus getting out the very next ball. So Broad did that here as well. And on the very next ball, you guessed it, he got Todd Murphy out. Then, just a couple of overs later, we got to see an absolutely beautiful moment. A veteran and servant of English cricket since 2006, Stuart Broad bowled an absolute beauty to take the final wicket, his 604th Test wicket, fittingly finishing off the game and drawing curtains to an illustrious career in majestic fashion. He took the wicket and went off on his iconic airplane celebration one final time. Every fan at the Oval, be it English or Aussie, was up, standing and applauding a fantastic career. His family was also present at the ground that day, adding to the specialty of the moment. In fact, Broad became the first cricketer ever to hit a six on his last ball with the bat and pick a wicket on his last ball with the ball in international cricket. So it was England who won the game by 49 runs and drew the Ashes 2-all. Both the captains posed with the trophy, but neither team celebrated hard because neither won the series outright. I think it was a fitting end to a terrific Ashes series. The scoreline of 2-2, I think, was a fair reflection of a wonderful Ashes. The player of the match was Chris Wokes. The player of the series from Australia was Mitchell Starc, whilst the player of the England was Chris Wokes, who entered the series in the third test match and then absolutely conquered it. You would have to say that England were the better side right through the series. A side that had clarity, a side that had clear intent and the never say die attitude. They stunned the Aussies in the first test with a remarkable comeback, only to lose it at the end. They came so close at Lords again. They were determined to win the series from 2-0 down and conquered Headingley. Rain played spoilsport in Manchester, and at the Oval, despite losing the toss, they negated Australia's advantage and leveled the series. And in the process, they won a lot of hearts, giving Stuart Broad the perfect farewell. What an Ashes series we've been treated to. A lot of parallels to 2005. Is this better? Was that better? Kind of questions. Would baseball work against Australia? All those kinds of things. At the end of it all, Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes had a great intention to make Test cricket entertaining, and they've done a fabulous job in this series. Sure, they raised a lot of eyebrows, but they also won a lot of moments along the way. Australia were a mixture of very good and not so good. They had moments to dominate the series, but they let them slip. But that's Ashes cricket for you. As one goes up, the other pulls you down. Thank you, England and Australia, for putting on a spectacle. That's all for today, and that's all for the Ashes video series. I hope you enjoyed this coverage of all the 5 test matches, with this one being the last. 2-all it was. That was the Ashes done, and now it's time for the World Cup.